So we're going to do this a second time now. Thank you so much for joining me for another Gish optimized video blog where I explore ways to optimize Gish characters particularly. And since a large portion of Gishing is melee, oftentimes I will talk about melee optimization for Gishes. Now for this video, we are going to explore options for one-handed weapon wielders, particularly for the Longsword. And the reason why we're going to do this is because, well, there are so many one-handed weapons in the game. In particular, the Longsword itself and rapiers, for example, have a lot of allure. But mechanically, at least at first blush, there are not a lot of options for one-handed weapon wielders. And what I'm here to tell you is that, well, there are indeed some options, some really nice options to optimize your one-handed weapon wielders and to give you a little bit of extra sting to keep you from becoming just kind of a humdrum character that lacks that wonderful explosive feel that we all love in our great weapon wielders, for example. And to give some of that extra sting to our one-handed weapon wielding players. Now, why are we doing this? Why am I looking specifically at one-handed weapon wielders? Well, for one, I like one-handed weapon wielders. It's sometimes fun to have a character that uses a shield, for example, or has your hand offhand free to do other things with. It's not always fun to just be railroaded into playing a melee character that just uses one kind of weapon, and there are so many options in Dungeons and Dragons. Part of the fun of Dungeons and Dragons is the wide variety of choices available. So what's really the point in playing a game that has such a wide variety when we railroad ourselves just into like one thing simply because it at first appears to be the most optimal choice? All right, so going into this further, I've been around the interwebs a lot and read a lot about character building and character optimization, and I run into questions like this often that I found on Reddit by Sir Chickenhawk, who asks, help me optimize a martial-based longsword character. And I'm here to say, Sir Chickenhawk, I'm here to help you. Hopefully this blog can help you and people like me. His question is, as someone who does historical fencing, D&D can be a little weird for me. In real-life fencing, I'm more partial to using a longsword over greatswords. I know the damage trade-off using the longsword, but wanted to know of any builds that let it shine, such as using grappler, etc. And so I'm not going to look at grappler. I'm going to look at just your longsword plus shield or your one-handed weapon plus shield. But this is a question that I see often, and the answer, the standard answer, which I see, from Pilsoff here, is a good one. And he says dueling fighting style lets you get some extra damage, and then you have your free hand for grapple or shield, or even shield master or other feats. And this gives you some nice options. Dueling fighting style gives you a little bit of extra damage. It in no way gets you up to anywhere near the comparable level of your greatsword wielders using your plus 10 damage feature from Great Weapon Master feat. But it does give you some nice perks. But generally speaking, it doesn't really feel punchy. It's not explosive. It doesn't give you these wonderful moments in combat where you nail something and then get the opportunity to nail something a little bit harder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and change that for you. I'm gonna move the bar just a little bit using a little bit of a backdoor that we found in the rules. And these are rules as written. I believe they are probably rules as intended, and I don't think really the game designers would have an issue with it, given the fact that one-handed wielders tend to get a little bit less love when it comes to feats in the game. So I think that it would be, shall we say, a bit mean to say no, you couldn't use this backdoor in the rules. And we're going to explore this further on in this video blog. So, but going into it, why would we want to try and figure out how to further optimize a one-handed weapon wielder? Well, I mean, just look at the wide variety of one-handed weapons there are in the game. And I see a lot of these weapons in use. People love to use your battle axes, for example. And I mean, in addition to that, we've got clubs, we've got daggers, we've got flails, we've got your hand axes, your javelins, your light hammers, your longswords, your maces, your mauls, your morning stars. Your quarterstaff is a versatile weapon, which you can use one-handed. Rapier, scimitar, short sword, sickles. Spear is also a versatile weapon, which you can use one-handed. Tridents are versatile weapons that you can use one-handed. War picks, war hammers, whips, and yikilas. Say that fast 5 times. So, in total, one-handed and versatile weapons represent 19 out of a total of 28 weapons in the game. Your heavy weapons represent 7, or two-handed weapons. The lance is a two-handed weapon that's not listed as heavy, but yeah, you get the picture. And last of all, we have a dual weapon, the double scimitar. So in all, most of the weapons in Dungeons and Dragons are one-handed or versatile weapons. So why would we ignore them from a character optimization standpoint? And in addition to having such a wide variety of one-handed weapons available to you in the game, we also can use a shield with a one-handed weapon. And the shield gives us this nice bonus of +2 to our armor class. And if we find a magical shield, that bonus can increase to +3 or +4 or +5. And this greatly enhances our survivability in the game. So when we're wielding a shield, we get that nice flip side advantage for like major damage dealers, is that we have a greater resiliency over time through the game. And in addition, shield has some great feats like Shield Master that we can take a look at and leverage. So yeah, there's that as well. And ignoring the shield, or just saying that, well, only great weapon wielders and, say, for example, polearm masters are the most optimal choices, and ignoring the shield kind of it also ignores the fact that your shield optimizes you to live longer as opposed to kill monsters faster. So having the shield in our offhand is going to add an edge to our survivability, which is fun and another option in the game. But particularly, we're going to talk a little bit about the shield and how it helps us live in the game. But more so, we're also going to talk about how to make your weapon side of that defense-offense equation more potent and bring you closer to those great weapon wielders and polearm masters. So, okay. Because, we like to wield our long swords, or I don't know, me particularly, I love the rapier. Rapier is so fun. It's got so many examples in fiction. Like the longsword, it's very common, particularly in anime, where you see so many rapier wielders. And I don't know about you, but I love my animes. For example, Asuna from Sword Art Online is really just fun to watch flit around in the battlefield, and fun to imagine in Dungeons and Dragons or a Dungeons and Dragons type game. So how are we going to optimize our battle axes, our rapiers, our longswords, our maces, our warhammers, our flails, while wielding a shield? And what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I mean, you've seen the title to this video, so it's not completely surprising that I'm going to talk to you about the Great Weapon Master feat. And you might wonder, you might ask me, Rob, why are you talking about Great Weapon Master? We're wielding a weapon in one hand. We've got a shield. What are we doing? Why are we looking at Great Weapon Master? Well, I'll tell you. We are looking at Great Weapon Master because of the first feature of Great Weapon Master, which is oft overlooked. Most optimization blogs talk about the second feature. We are going to talk about the first feature. So I'm just going to read this description for you from D&D Beyond. Great Weapon Master, you've learned to put the weight of a weapon to your advantage, letting its momentum empower your strikes. You gain the following benefits. And the first feature is on your turn. When you score a critical hit with a melee weapon, and I'm just going to highlight this for you. Melee weapon. See, it says melee weapon. Okay, we'll get back to that in a second. On your turn, when you score a critical hit with a melee weapon or reduce a creature to 0 hit points with 1, you can make 1 melee weapon attack as a bonus action. What does it say in this description? It doesn't say when you score a critical hit with a heavy weapon. It doesn't say when you score a critical hit with a glaive. It doesn't say when you score a critical hit with a weapon you are wielding in 2 hands. What it does say is when you score a critical hit with any melee weapon. And I don't understand really why people haven't talked about this more. I find this to be a wonderful feature. In a way, it wants me to just revise this in my mind to the feat to Weapon Master, right? And so for me, this feature, especially with a one-handed weapon, makes the feat worthwhile. Now, there are some of you that might say, well, hold on, but isn't the main feature of this feat the ability to take a -5 penalty to your attack roll? And if the attack hits, add +10 to the attack's damage. And I mean, that's a good argument. I don't really exactly know what to say to that other than if you're wielding a greatsword, you definitely get that advantage. If you're wielding a glaive, you get that potential advantage. And that is a major advantage in combat. But when you do that, you're not using a shield. Because heavy weapons are pretty much all two-handed weapons. I don't know of a heavy weapon that's not a two-handed weapon. So you're sacrificing the shield to gain the benefit of this -5 penalty to your attack roll and +10 to the attack's damage, which is definitely punchy. It's optimal. It gives you a lot of extra damage. And as one-handed weapon wielders, we confront that a lot. But moving back to this first feature, gaining this bonus action by picking up this feat does add some nice explosive potential to our longsword, our rapier, our mace, our Morningstar, our, God, what else are we hitting with? Flail attacks. So for me, in my games, I've played this, and I have a lot of fun with this with a one-handed weapon wielder. I have really enjoyed it. I have found that it gives me a lot of the explosive potential in game, and I find that it gives me like a benefit at low levels and through the mid levels. It feels strong and helpful through those levels. But I also find that as I get more powerful and as I'm able to buff myself, this extra ability to gain a bonus action attack when I crit or kill really feels like it improves my potential as a player and a threat on the battlefield. So let's do some math. Why I thought about this, I said, well, hold on. This is just a perception that I have using this feat, like carving out half of this feat for a one-handed weapon wielder. What if I maybe do a little bit of math and use some calculations to determine like how much of an advantage I really have taking this feat and still using a shield? And so I'm going to do that for you and for me for this video blog so that we can mathematically get a glimpse at how powerful we are wielding a longsword with a shield. And particularly, I'm going to build us as a paladin, as a base human paladin. And I'm going to compare us with a base human paladin that does not take this feat, but uses a weapon and a shield and takes duelist, as we will as well. And I'm going to compare us with a human paladin that takes the great weapon master feat, but uses a great sword and uses this second feature, which I've just taken to calling power attack, to take the -5 penalty to the attack roll and gain +10 to damage, and calculate that out using math in certain scenarios. And what I'm going to do is give you the math for how much more survivable you are with a shield at level 5, what the damage difference is between you and those other two humans built using the same same resources to build different characters at level 5. And then we're going to go all the way to level 12 and include a powerful buff spell, which is haste, and the progression that we get at level 12, and then compare the builds as well. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it and look at some of the math. The first math that we're going to look at is the difference between a shield user and a non-shield user during a tough combat. Now, how did I calculate this? I looked at I basically theorized that a tough combat is a combat in which our weapon wielder is facing 3 foes that each have 2 attacks that have an average to moderately high bonus to hit, and that do relatively average damage. And so through this 4 rounds of combat, we're consistently facing off against 3 foes. And I'm also adding in the calculation that somehow they manage to have advantage against us. Now, this just means that, for whatever reason, the cards have been stacked against us. And over 4 rounds of a tough combat at level 5, a shield user will take an average of 39.4 damage. This is calculating in the extra +2 to armor class given to you by the shield. A non-shield user that doesn't otherwise optimize their defenses, that just kind of leans into offense, is going to take 52 damage over the course of a tough combat. And this is 12.6 damage difference from one to the other. It's significant. If you're looking at the average fighter, ranger, paladin hit points at this level, it's 44. And so what the shield means in this combat is the difference between our character getting taken down by the latter portion of the fight, or staying alive and being up to continue to deal damage, or to assist our fellows who might also have gotten down by feeding them a potion or something else. So this aspect of the shield is one that is oft not talked about. And there's some optimization blogs that lean really super heavily into tanking, and that talk about damage taken per rounds, and we're not doing that. What we're doing is we're looking at the net difference between a sword and shield user on the defensive side and a great weapon user, for example, on the defensive side. And this difference means that in a tough combat, it's relatively likely that the one without the shield is going to get taken down, so long as there aren't other mitigating factors, like the great weapon master user kills enough bad guys to actually reduce the number of enemies that are hitting you, which is also a potential. Sometimes oftentimes a good offense is the best defense. So, but all things being equal, the shield user is still going to be taking a lot less damage, and considerably less damage. So that benefit of the shield is not often talked about, and I wanted to talk about it. So moving on, though, to the next benefit of our build here, or the next aspect. For the next aspect, we're going to look at a comparison between our level 5 human paladins. We have each taken human, or actually, I'm lying. I'm actually, in this build, I took custom lineage for the longsword plus duelist plus shield wielder, but without the great weapon master feat. So we gave him custom lineage to give him a little bit of an edge in the form of an 18 strength at first level by picking up the slasher feat, right? So I'm kind of leaning a little bit more into the longsword wielder to give them just a little bit edge against our other builds. So let's take that into account. So we got custom lineage on our longsword plus duelist wielder. We have human on our longsword plus duelist plus great weapon master, but not using the power attack feature because we can't, because we're using a shield in our offhand. So that's our number 2 here. And our number 3 is our great sword plus great weapon master plus power attack. And how do our damage, how much damage we apply, stack up? And against a high armor class opponent, or against an opponent, that is difficult to hit for whatever reason, or which we don't have advantage against, the longsword plus duelist, using the custom lineage, does 16.55 average damage. Our longsword plus duelist plus great weapon master, getting that extra bonus action attack on a crit or a critical, is doing 17.6. So already we are seeing that the longsword plus duelist plus great weapon master is edging out the longsword plus duelist, not by a lot, but by a bit. And then the great sword plus great weapon master, -5 to hit plus 10 on damage, is doing 21.18, which is still out damaging all three, which is expected. But again, that's a trade-off that the great weapon wielder is taking for less resiliency in combat because they are not having the shield. Now, against a low armor class opponent, or against an opponent that we have advantage against, the longsword plus duelist does 21.81 damage per round. The longsword plus duelist plus great weapon master does 24.3 damage per round. Here we are starting to edge out the longsword plus duelist a bit more, by about, looks like 2.5 damage per round. And then the great weapon master, great sword wielder, kind of runs away with it. So at level 5, we're getting some advantage as the longsword plus duelist plus great weapon master. We're feeling it, and we're not really getting left as far behind on our damage by the great sword plus great weapon master plus power attack. Of course, we still are, but we're also getting the wonderful benefits of the shield, which keep us alive and maybe helps us take a few more risks to get some damage that's not really tangible in this damage calculation. It might actually add to our maneuver a little bit. At least that's the way it has felt to me. So is it worthwhile? And in my opinion, yes, because we're just doing a little bit more, and it makes us feel more effective on the battlefield, and we still have our shield that is helping us take that nice, I've listed this as damage taken per combat, but I should probably just say that this is damage taken per tough combat, and we're still beating out the great sword plus great weapon master plus power attack on that particular issue. So, but the thing that I found in the math, both the math and in experience, is what happens with our longsword plus duelist plus great weapon master using that first feature of great weapon master is that they really explode if they get buffs and as they level. So they kind of become a little bit quadratic, and they eat away at that gap between the longsword plus the great weapon master, such that there are iterations of our great weapon master plus longsword plus duelist, given certain class types, that can out damage some Great Weapon Master class types that have not necessarily, picked the most optimal class. Now we're just doing a pure apples to apples to apples comparison here for the same base class, no subclasses. Although we're assuming, I guess, that they're Vengeance Paladins, because moving on to our level 12, we are, or Glory Paladins, because we're going to add in a, oops, wrong. Here we go. So the slide, yeah, level 12 Paladin, casting haste. So we're going to be a Glory Paladin, we're going to be a Vengeance Paladin, we're going to cast haste, we're going to be level 12. We will have all maxed out our strength to 20 by now in these builds, in these build comparisons. And we will also have all gotten the improved Divine Smite feature, which we are factoring into these damage per round calculations. Now, immediately we see that the Longsword plus Duelist plus Great Weapon Master has taken a major lead versus the Longsword plus the Duelist. The damage per round in the Longsword plus the Duelist against a difficult to hit opponent, a higher armor class opponent, is 34.95. Our damage calculation for the Longsword plus Duelist plus Great Weapon Master, using a shield in our offhand, is 40.7, which is well more, which is more than 5 additional damage over the Longsword plus Duelist, which is pretty significant. But the one thing that we really notice here is how much of a gap we have eroded between the Longsword plus the Great Weapon Master plus the Power Attack feature. And right now we're within 3 points of damage of the Longsword plus the Great Weapon Master plus Power Attack. And we have the benefit of a shield. So we are optimized. We've leapt well ahead of the Longsword plus the Duelist. And we're within spitting distance of the Great Sword Wielder against a higher armor class opponent. Now, not unexpectedly, the Great Weapon Master plus Power Attack version of this character does considerably outdamage all of our builds against an easy to hit opponent or against an opponent that we have advantage on. But again, we're still kind of jumping ahead. So like the Longsword plus Duelist does 46.31 DPR. We do 54.03, which is nearly 8 points ahead of the Longsword plus Duelist, which is considerable. And the Great Sword plus Great Weapon Master plus Power Attack is at 68.6, which we are about 14 points behind. So the Great Sword plus Great Weapon Master is still, the king of damage, but we're doing good damage. We're doing solid damage with the Longsword plus Duelist plus Great Weapon Master. And against a foe that has a higher armor class, we're looking pretty sharp. And then this, in addition to the fact that we still have the shield, and at this level it's likely that we've gotten a magical shield. We probably have a +3 to armor class as opposed to a +2, so our damage taken per round is going to be much less than the Great Weapon Wielder using the Power Attack, all things being equal in a tough combat. So this is a nice niche. It's pretty cool. It puts us in a kind of an overlap feature with the Great Weapon Masters, depending on our class choices. And it also opens up the one-handed weapons for us, along an optimization route. It's not crazy optimized, but it's optimized. It's giving us that explosion. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little video clip of one of my characters that uses this combination in combat. It's just a short clip, but it just shows you how satisfying it can feel. It's only for a level 5 character. It's not like a higher level character that's received more of the benefits of this combination, but it does provide a nice example of how it can be used. And so I'm going to go back to my YouTube channel here. And hold on, do we have it? Oh, no, hold on. Okay, I'm just going to have to... Yep, here we go. So let's open up the Kobold Surprise. And this is a recent game that I played. I'm going to go ahead and advance us to the 20-minute mark where this starts to happen. And we'll also turn off the music here for a sec. So just bear with me just for 1 second as I turn off the background music. There we go. And okay, so let's go ahead and put this on full screen and hit play. And you can
kind of separate him into 4 different pieces.
Yeah, so here we go. We'll just we'll advance here. I think it was broom here. All right. So here we go. Will fly. So this is me moving my this kobold, dexterity-based paladin, to attack a kobold. And here we are, just for 12, using a straight rapier.
You're gonna take out the little kobold there.
Okay. And Morgan is going to continue moving to set up flanking for her friends. Yes.
I was checking your lighting because the lighting here kind of changed on my screen, but it looks like you're just fine.
Oh, okay.
Keep going.
Yeah, if you, the lighting changed? That's weird. I didn't have any change. Okay. She has 60 feet of dark vision, so.
Yep.
And then she will attack this kobold. Sorcerer. Did it roll? Oh yeah, 24 for 11.
Yeah, you got a 24.
And then
go ahead.
And then bonus action because I killed that little dude.
Yep.
And 23 for 7. And we are fucking these people up. And that'll be
well,
you know, be level 5.
1 extra attack makes a big difference.
Yes, it does. Okay, so you guys saw that. So my paladin moved from here. She has a broom of flying, no magic weapons at this point. And the way that she leveraged her great weapon fighting style with a one-handed weapon is she came in and she attacked a kobold, which of course is like a lower AC, lower hit points. And basically what I was doing was I was fishing for the one hit kill so that I could then get a bonus action attack to deal some extra damage to this kobold sorcerer here. And that strategy worked out really well. I moved in, I hit the kobold, I took him out in 1 shot, and then I did 18 damage to that kobold sorcerer using the Great Weapon Master feat with a one-handed weapon. This essentially gave me 3 attacks on that round. And increased my damage output on average by 50% for that particular round, which is a major boost. And this shows a strategy that you can use with this kind of a build to increase the likelihood that you're going to get that extra attack as a bonus action, either from a crit or a kill, fishing for advantage or fishing for first shot kills against low hit point opponents that present themselves as opportunity on the battlefield. I actually really like this because it kind of also makes you a bit of a cleanup crew for these heavier attackers. Oftentimes a heavier attacker will go in and knock a critter down to relatively low HP, if not kill them, and then you can come in and clean them up and then still get 2 attacks as well. So talking a little bit about a on the grid optimization as opposed to just a straight numbers optimization. So this is my build guide for you, a bit of a longsword surprise, if you will. I would like to hear how this works out for you in game, or if you have different numbers calculations, if you think mine are way off, or I'm crazy to be doing this or whatnot. But in all honesty, I don't think I'm ever going to stop. It's not that I will always play a one-handed weapon wielder with a shield who takes Great Weapon Master the feat to get the first feature of it to optimize my one-handed weapon attack. But if I am playing a one-handed weapon wielder who is not wielding a shield and a spear, for example, and taking Polearm Master, I'm doing it. And not only that, I'm doing it because I like to play characters with longswords and rapiers and warhammers and maces and flails and lots of other things. But yeah, I really do love the longswords and the rapiers, and this makes it fun. It's not overpowered, it's not broken, but it's a nice feature. It's punchy, it's explosive. It gives us that feeling of being a hero on the battlefield, which is one of the things that we play Dungeons and Dragons for. That we're part of an effective combat team, and we contribute well to our party's effectiveness. And I found that this has definitely been the case with my dexterity-based paladin Morgan Schnee, which is a build guide I have over on scribblersfantasticalworkshop.com. The link's in the notes for the video, so if you're interested in my particular paladin build, go check it out. And if you're not and you want a way to help optimize your one-handed weapon wielders, I hope this little mini guide has been helpful to you. So thank you for joining me, and I will look forward to seeing all of you guys next time. Let's go ahead and
All right. Anything else
finish up
from
here.
Morgan?
Let's go ahead and pause this. There we go. And let's go back and end the stream. So again, thank you all for joining me. It has been wonderful talking to you guys about this. This is one of my favorite little optimization tweaks for Dungeons and Dragons. It's not crazy